Welcome to a Drop Tent Media production.
Welcome to the Lone Stakers Podcast. Hi, I'm Albert Davis, and I'm a solo staker on the Ethereum blockchain.
And I'm Tommy Harold, and I'm a solo staker.
Both Tommy and I are crypto enthusiasts, navigating the world of Ethereum solo staking. We're not experts, but we're on a journey to learn more. So join us as we explore, learn, and stake our claim in the Ethereum network. Really looking forward to sharing some of my experiences and that I've had along this our crypto journey, and looking forward to this.
I'm Tommy Harold. Together, me and Albert, we're on a mission to demystify the world of solo staking in Ethereum. So we're gonna go anyone that you can get involved with this. We're going to explain our experiences. And it doesn't matter what your technical expertise is. So I think the first thing that we wanted to do was just like introduce ourselves a little bit and tell the listeners who we are. So Albert, why don't you kind of explain how you got into crypto in the first place?
Oh, great! This is. I hope we have at least 10 minutes for this. But by the way, before we jump into that, I wanted to define what a solo staker is. And I guess if we're backing up, so staking is something that you do on a blockchain where you put up some tokens and then you get to be part of running the computers that run the blockchain. And a solo staker is someone that's running their own computer hardware, as opposed to other types of staking where people join together in groups or they join an exchange and they can stake one step removed from the solo staking, which is what Tommy and I are doing and what this podcast is about. Now, how I got into this and how I became a solo staker. I got interested in cryptocurrency and Bitcoin about 3 years ago, actually as a way to earn a little extra money. And I found it intriguing when I really started to dig into the technology of blockchain and also the idea that, wow, there could be a new monetary system, a new way of handling finance and money, and that's not control, doesn't have a central controlling entity. In cryptocurrency, we talk a lot about decentralization. That's a big mouthful, but basically a blockchain runs by itself. It's just code that runs. And I compare that to, say, the banking system, which, we all know we go to the bank, there's tons of people running banks. If you could imagine, a blockchain can do just about everything a bank does and doesn't need any people doing it. So it's almost like an automated banking system. So it's just very intriguing from that point of view.
And so, Albert, tell us how you first heard about it. Tell us what drew you into that, because that's kind of a good explanation of where we are right now. But how did you first hear about it? What brought you in?
Well, I was literally, I moved to the Caribbean country of Haiti, and in my retirement, and I was looking for something interesting to do that could possibly generate some income, but it had to be online. So I was kind of searching for ideas of how to generate some income doing things online. And part of that search, I ran across cryptocurrency. And so then I bought some. I found, it took probably a week just to even get to the step where I actually got a hold of some Bitcoin. And I did it through a kind of a less traditional way. It was like a literal peer-to-peer exchange that I found. And then what I realized on that exchange is that people were paying a premium to buy the Bitcoin versus what you could purchase on a more traditional exchange. And so I discovered that I could create a markup and make a slim margin of profit by just merely buying and selling Bitcoin to different people from different exchanges. Sorry, but tell me a little bit about yourself and how your background and how you got started in staking of Ethereum and in crypto in general.
Sure thing. So, like, an interesting similarity between us, actually, in that I'm from the UK. I grew up in the UK, but I haven't lived in the UK for a number of years at this point. And I was actually living in Myanmar, sometimes known as Burma, in, gosh, it must have been about 2015, maybe 2014, maybe 2015. I don't remember exactly. And I was a regular subscriber to the London Review of Books, and in one journal they had a deep dive, in depth article about cryptocurrency, what it is, what its use cases are, and I just was so intrigued by it. It kind of, I wouldn't say it blew my mind, but I was very, very interested. And just from a theoretical perspective, right? That, as you were talking about, how it's got the potential to replace banks, how it's got the potential to break down boundaries, national boundaries, geographical boundaries, just all of these things. And there were a couple of books that were recommended in this article. And so I bought both of these books, I read both of these books. But there I was in Myanmar, and kind of like you were saying, it wasn't easy to buy cryptocurrency there. And in actual fact, I didn't buy any cryptocurrency there. But you know, once you start hearing these things and reading about these things, like the connections happen, right? And so a colleague of mine there, an American colleague of mine there, I think he was on Coinbase. I'm not sure exactly what exchange it was, but he was buying and selling Bitcoin back in 2015 when it was like two, three, $400 a Bitcoin. And he would like buy in, double his money, cash back out again, buy in, double his money, cash out again. And so I was kind of like doing it vicariously through him. I hadn't bought my first Bitcoin at that point, but just like so interested from a theoretical standpoint about its possibility, about its potential, and all of its different use cases. And it wasn't until about 2018 when when I bought my first Bitcoin. And by that point, I'd moved to Rwanda. So I was living in Rwanda. I guess time had gone by, so maybe it was a little easier for me to buy cryptocurrency from kind of like the not the hotspots of the crypto world at that point. Um, and so yeah, it was kind of like it was born from a very much a theoretical standpoint, and slowly grew from there. And so I had my first Bitcoin in 2018. I was using it. I mean, the reason that I got involved with it was because I was interested in its use cases in kind of like the Silk Road websites and the derivatives thereof. So like I was kind of like I was using it as a transactional currency from time to time, um, and 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 then again, you know, I got into Ethereum and I got into the solo staking, um, just through meeting somebody, like having a conversation, meeting a friend, and it was my good friend JDeep that actually kind of jumped me over the hurdle from just like owning a small amount of transactional cryptocurrency into the kind of like the deeper world of and the more community kind of aspect of solo staking and being part of that Ethereum community that is on directly on the blockchain and solo staking.
Oh wow, that's really quite a journey. I'm curious if I don't know if you remember that far back how you initially purchased your first Bitcoin, if it was on an exchange or if it was like from a friend, because I guess if it was difficult to find an exchange with a little bit of sophistication, a person could get a wallet and transact with a friend to get some Bitcoin. Do you remember how you did that at first?
So I don't remember precisely, and I think like one of the interesting things about this podcast is right. I'm not an expert.
Yeah.
I'm fundamentally not an expert. I'm like I'm bumbling around in the world of cryptocurrency, not really understanding what I'm doing, but like fascinated by everything that's in there. And so I remember that I tried to buy from one of the major exchanges in the US, and that whole I was a US citizen, but I had never lived in the US. And so I didn't have address. I didn't have an address that I could refer to. I didn't have a driving license. And so my inability to demonstrate that I was a US resident was prohibitive in terms of me using the US exchanges. And so when I first bought Bitcoin, it was from a UK based exchange. And it was like I used probably my dad's residential address in the UK as part of that, that demonstration that you are who you say you are. Yeah, and so that was how I first bought Bitcoin. I can't remember what the exchange was. I can't remember the name of it. I didn't stick around there for very long. Um, so yeah, that was how I first bought mine.
That reminded me what you were telling that I had a lot of trouble even getting onto the United States exchanges because same thing, this whole address business. So at the time that I started, my official address was a New York State address, New York City, and New York State had strict rules, and if you put down New York State and then try to join an exchange, you would get blocked. The exchange would say, no, you can't do that. I don't know if we go all the details, but I actually almost changed my address. I mean, I was in a transition, but it hurried my change over my address. I started using an address in Philadelphia of a family member. And then when I was, because I was in the state of Pennsylvania, now the exchanges, they were like happy to have me. So it's really very interesting how this, the legal stuff that we have to navigate and the workarounds that we have to do is it's kind of strange, in a way, because like
Yeah.
I want
No,
to buy a
I
car, I don't have to move to a different state to buy a car. But if I want to buy a Bitcoin, I can't buy it if I'm in the wrong state at that time. I think that's changed by now.
right. And I have a very specific memory actually now that you're talking about that, and it's kind of back to that know your customer thing. Is I had to get on a video phone call with somebody in Austria, even though I was buying from the UK, it was somebody in Austria. I had to show them my driver's license on the camera. And then they had to tip me a code. But I didn't have a UK phone at the time. And so I had teed it up with my mum. So I was going to give her phone number to this person. They were going to text my mum this code. And then my mum was going to WhatsApp the code to me as soon as it came in. So I could do it all whilst we were on this video phone call, which kind of like, it goes to show that like I was subverting the rules. They had their rules in place and I was going around them to get what I wanted. But that was the only way that I could do it. And it's, which is interesting, right? Because it's supposed to be this thing that breaks down barriers and it breaks down geographical borders. But the institutions that try to troll and regulate have built those barriers back up again, so there isn't this kind of like borderless um free transaction universe that it's supposed to be.
Yeah, and it's a. I mean, it kind of makes sense to me that because part of it is you're kind of bridging from the traditional finance system into this new finance system. And I guess it's fair to say that a new finance system is a bit of a threat to a traditional finance system. We talked about this, about sending money across borders. It's very slow and it's costly. And like Tommy, between us right now, we could send each other Bitcoin or Ethereum, and we know that it would arrive in 5 minutes, maybe less, maybe more, but in a matter of minutes. And the fee would be a very small fee. And we could do it on a weekend. We could do it anytime we wanted to, regardless of your time zone and my time zone. If we were in the traditional banking system, at 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, can't do it. Weekend, can't do it. Holidays, can't do it. So it's almost like a competitive threat to traditional banking. And they may say, oh, well, it's high risk and we don't want to take on the risk. But there's also an aspect of this that, if they're being completely honest, they have to figure out how they're going to position themselves with this new system. Now, maybe they wish it would just go away, and if they put up enough resistance, and make it hard enough for people, that people just say, oh, don't bother, I'm not going to try. But as you and I both demonstrate, like, we both were very motivated to have an alternative, because in a way, the finance money is it's like a monopoly. This occurred to me when I was thinking about this a couple of days ago. It's like a monopoly, because there's only one. Until Bitcoin and crypto came around, there's only one financial system that we didn't have a choice. And so when there's a monopoly, the people running that monopoly can set the terms, like, oh, after 4 p.m., well, you can't do, we're closing our store. Sorry.
Yeah, no, it's funny that you talk about that, actually, because this is like a bit of a joke with my good friends in the US. Like, if they owe me some money in the region of like anywhere from like $10 to $500, the best way for them to transfer money to me, in my opinion, is still by writing a check. It's the fastest and the cheapest way to reliably get that money from their account to my account. Now, that involves me like taking a picture of it and uploading it onto an app on my phone. But fundamentally, and it's exactly what you're saying right now, fundamentally, the technology in the traditional banking system, it's not developed beyond writing a check to pay to like transfer money to somebody else's account. So this is a solution and a competitor to that issue. But anyway, we digress. I wanna hear from you, because in your story up until this point, you're trading Bitcoin, you own Bitcoin, you're in the Bitcoin world. And now, I don't know if you still have Bitcoin, but now you're not, right? Now you're a solo staker in the Ethereum world. And so, kind of, how did you move from where you were doing margin calls on Bitcoin from somebody in, I don't know, somebody pretending to be somebody else wherever they might be? How did you end up in the Ethereum solo staking world?
Oh, well, first of all, just a bit, I do still have Bitcoin, and I think it's a good good coin for me to hold, and the Ethereum. Well, how should we describe this? I was kind of cruising along and getting deeper and deeper into this trading world, and I found other exchanges that they were, I don't know, more fringy, I shall say. And in one of these very fringy exchanges, I was trading with a guy. Oh, and I found out that they would allow you to use many different apps. So I got away from Zelle, from banks, and started using things like Amazon. I even did Amazon gift cards, believe it or not. I mean, it's weird, but there's a market out there for that. But I also found I could get paid on Apple Pay. And Apple
Wait, hold
Pay,
on 1 second.
yeah.
You were buying Amazon gift cards or you were selling Amazon gift cards?
I was sending people Bitcoin,
And
and
they
they
would
would
send you
send
Amazon
me an
gift
Amazon
cards.
gift card. They send you a code, and you put that code into Amazon, and you get a credit for maybe $30 or $50,
And so
whatever the amount.
you monetized it by buying stuff on Amazon, buying
And
the
then I
things that
bought,
you
and then I
needed
bought
in your
stuff on,
life.
yeah, it kind of, I became someone who had a nice credit on Amazon, and then I bought a few things or bought gifts for people, whatever it may have been.
Okay.
Again, I suspected that there was some shady business going on with my counterparty, but I couldn't
Sure.
figure out what it was. And then as the Apple Pay was super convenient because the payment shows up on your phone right away, and that's when I got scammed. I got scammed out of about, I don't know, $400, I guess. I found a guy. He traded with me through the platform about 3 or 4 times, and then he suggested that we just trade directly with each other. And I was confident enough, like I knew the mechanics of it. And he totally scammed me because he sent me Apple payments that were fake Apple payments. Like they showed up on your phone. It looked exactly like a payment. And we did about 3 or 4 of these trades. And then something that, there's that little part in your brain that's like, wait, something just doesn't seem quite right. And I tapped on the payment and nothing happened. Like normal Apple Pay, when you touch it, then it expands and you get another window. And I'm like touching this thing and it's like, oh, God. It's just he just literally sent me an image that looked exactly like, it was very clever.
Uh-huh.
It was very clever.
It looked like what it was supposed to look
It
like.
looked like what it's supposed to, and we were going fast. And I remember at the time, Bitcoin was rising, and it was around 12,000 and 13,000 at that time. I remember that. But that kind of put it cooled me and kind of froze me a little bit. It's like, oh damn, I really don't know what I'm doing, and there are these people out there, and I kind of like put it on press the pause button
Okay.
on this, and then
I'm
yeah,
wondering at this point if we can get that person on one of our future podcasts.
I might be able to find them because I don't delete anything, and it's somewhere in my stream of messages, probably somewhere in my Apple Pay, I guess. I don't know.
And
And,
you
and
can
by
say
the way,
thank
Apple
you.
Pay,
You can say thank you to him for bringing you to the world of Ethereum solo staking. Without him, you would be where you are now.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So, have you had any like nervous times or points where you felt like something was going on with your digital cryptocurrency transactions, or if you so far see, and that's a warning because we all have to be careful.
So the one thing that I have had, I mean, we all have that heart-stopping moment, right, where you press send and it takes a period of time
Mhm.
to arrive at the arrival, the whatever you want to call it, the destination wallet. And I remember the first time that I put my money down and then had to wait and wait and wait, and that was obviously a nerve-wracking moment. But in terms of like actually being the like somebody scamming me. The only time it's happened is that I was buying something with Bitcoin,
Uh,
and it was it was not an above board vendor, and I sent them the Bitcoin, and it never showed. Right, it was supposed to arrive in the mail, and it just never showed up. And that they actually continued to communicate with me, where I was like, it's not here, and they're like, well, we sent it, and I was like, well, it's not here, well, we sent it. And so like I presume that they were just scamming me and pretending to be a vendor. But maybe it got lost in the mail, I have no idea. But so but kind of counter to you, i I've never been in that base of frequent trading. within small periods of time to try to make a profit. When I first bought Bitcoin, it was transactional. I was actually using it as a currency. I was converting fiat currency into cryptocurrency so I could buy things with cryptocurrency. And so there wasn't the kind of like dog eat dog world of scammers in that kind of like that day trading space. And then since I've become a solo staker, it's much more of an investment, right? I have chosen what my investment is, and I sit back and I wait to see where it goes. And so I don't feel like I've interacted with scammers in that same way that you were just describing.
Mhm. Yeah, staking, it's kind of how should we say this? It's kind of like fishing or something. It's a very sedate kind of, yeah, you're not
Hmm.
in and out. You do something basically one time, and then it's just sort of, you're just sitting there. There's no, yeah, it's really a one-time transaction, and then the funds are just sitting there
And
working.
that's what
Yeah.
appealed to me, to be
Yeah.
honest. Like for me personally, it just sounds so tiring to have to decide on a day-to-day basis, like, am I buying, am I selling, am I in this crypto, am I going to go in that crypto, which one's rising, which one's falling? It's all very interesting to me, but I just don't have the mentality or the bandwidth to be making those decisions on a daily basis. And so it was a massive appeal to me when I met JD, and he was the first person that explains um, what proof of stake was, what Ethereum 2.0 was going to be, what it meant that they were developing mainnet, I think is what they call it.
Mhm.
And so I had met him after the COVID lockdown had been released in Rwanda. And there was a few guys that used to go out for a drink, and I met J Deep, and we got chatting, and he knew crypto, I knew crypto, so we were talking about crypto. And then it very quickly became aware that like he knew tons more about crypto than I did, but I could be conversant in the space. And he explained to me what solo staking was. He explained to me what the kind of like what the goal of it was, where it's supposed to be headed. And this was before December 2020, which was when the first validator nodes were put on the beacon chain or whatever it's called. And so he was explaining it to me as a theoretical perspective. This idea that you kind of like you the proof of stake. You put your 32 Ethereum on there, and that's kind of like your investment into the beacon chain and into the validating process. And so the nature of the kind of like you put it on and then you sit back and you're a community member, you're part of the community, but then you sit back and and the node, it does its thing, it validates and it accrues rewards and it increases in value. And so maybe a little bit naively, which we can get into a little bit later, excuse me, maybe a little bit naively, I thought it was just going to be like a bank deposit, right? You put your money in, you sit back, and you count your money, and you count your node increasing in value. But that was definitely a massive appeal to me for getting into solo staking and for doing it as a solo staker as opposed to being on an exchange or anything like that.
Mhm. Well, what appealed to me about Ethereum, when I heard the distinction made, was the programmable aspect. So
Mm,
Ethereum has an entire program, a complete programming language that kind of lives within the Ethereum blockchain. Um, And Bitcoin, by contrast, has a very limited programmability. And some people, and that's the distinction between the two. And I think they both have a place, because the a limited scripting in some ways it's safer and more secure, because there's just very little that a malicious person could do. But on the other hand,
And that's Bitcoin that you're talking about, the
that's
limited scriptability.
correct, and that's Bitcoin. But it's
Because
also
I'm gonna just interject very quickly here, because this is like the edge of my knowledge right here, right now, what you're talking about. And I know that you've got some programming background from when before your retirement, but like this is the very edge of my knowledge. So like keep going and explain it to me.
sure. Well, so Ethereum had this notion of building in all this programmability within the blockchain. And with that, the phrase is called a smart contract. And so, for example, you could, and our validator nodes use that. For example, every week or every some period of time now that withdrawals have been enabled, there's a thing that there's a program that runs that transfers some of the rewards from one wallet to another wallet. That's done with programming. So because it's an automatic process and there's no people doing it. So that's maybe the distinction. And because I did have some background in coding in the financial community of New York City, I was like, that really appealed to me. It's like, wait a second. Now you have this blockchain, and now it's programmable. It's like programmable money. Man, there's probably a lot of things you can do with that. And I
There's
want
a lot of things I can do with it.
yeah, a lot of things you could do with programmable money. It would seem. I mean, you don't have to, it doesn't take a genius. Like, well, I mean, I don't know if I can come up with the great use case, but people have, and they will continue to come up with them. Um, and then the other part that drew me to Ethereum is like, wait a minute, you're saying that I could be part of this system, like I could be kind of like a banker role, like I put up some money and now I'm part of this worldwide system of finance, and I can be a part of that. It's like I definitely I mean, that became like I was somewhat obsessed with, like I dropped everything. I said, this is what I want to get this to happen. I want to be part of it. Yeah.
And so that's when you first heard of like what Ethereum is and how it's constructed and what its potentials were.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, it was over time, but the kind of the aha was like this when I didn't want to run a proof of work computer that just didn't seem interesting or fun. But when
Uh-huh.
it turned over to the proof of stake, and it's just like you just put up your 32 ETH and you can be a part of it. That's the thing that really got me so interested.
And I guess maybe from my perspective, I've maybe never really truly appreciated the difference in accessibility from one to the other. Because like my introduction to cryptocurrency and Bitcoin was reading these books, and you read these stories about people that have either built bedroom setups or like these huge actors that have got warehouses full of hardware tech that's doing all of that stuff. And so the accessibility to the lay individual of like you put your 32 in and you can become a member of the community, I maybe hadn't truly appreciated how much that would have appealed to me subconsciously, maybe, or just like even meant that it was a possibility.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like with my lifestyle, like setting up computers to that you would need to run the cryptography for the proof of work. And I know we haven't even explained what proof of work is, but it's the method that's it takes a lot of computer processing power and uses a fair amount of electricity. So that just didn't appeal to me for my lifestyle. I was doing a lot of traveling. Like, how would I even keep these things running and watch after them and things like that? But if you say, oh, proof of stake, you just have to put up some collateral in the form of 32 ETH. That was like, I can do. Now, I didn't realize that we do have a little computer maintenance. It's not really computer maintenance, but we have updating that we do somewhat infrequently, but it's not a total hands-off proposition. Would you agree with that?
Yes, I definitely would agree with that. And I think that's like when I referred to my naivety, I think that's what I was referring to. Like I walked into it very excited, but like expecting it to be like a bank deposit, right? You put your money in and then you stand back and whatever happens to it happens to it. And for the longest time, actually, that's what it was. But yes, there's hands-on updating, and I know you and I have very, very slightly different setups. But we both use Amazon Web Services to kind of like host the node, right? And I hadn't heard of Amazon Web Services before I had a node, and now I'm somewhat literate in kind of like the ways and the whys of Amazon Web Services. I certainly hadn't ever done anything with command lines, and now I have. And it's funny that that we bring this up actually, because literally today I checked my node on Beacon Chain, and for the past 36 hours, it's been losing money. You know, it's just like those. It's just like those 2 cents per transaction, right? It's going in the wrong direction. It's not going in the right direction. Yeah. Oh yeah. And so
that means your node must have stopped processing somehow or another, or it got.
And you see, and so that's the limit of my knowledge, right?
Yeah.
Like I don't know why it stopped working. I can see on Beacon Chain that it stopped working.
Is it working now, or is it still not working?
I haven't checked. I haven't checked. And so at 5 o'clock, I jumped on a phone call with like the guy who can fix it, and we spent 15 minutes. Push this, push that, push this, push that, and then he says, "Okay, now go ahead." In about 10-15 minutes, Beacon Chain, and you'll see that your node is active. But right, that was 5:30 in the evening. I immediately switched over to my kids, to making dinner, to kids' bedtime, your life takes over. And I haven't checked Beacon Chain. Like I could do it right now, I guess, but I could wait another.
You're doing a podcast. Well, that story is reminds me. This is about a year ago. I got a message from Amazon, a very cryptic email from Amazon, and it said basically that the computer that you're using is busted. Is it crashed. I don't know. I mean, it was a very cryptic message. But the long and the short of it was like the computer is not working. And it's like, wait a second. So I was traveling overseas at the time, and I had to go through this whole thing also with the support people, and they got me through it. But it was not easy because I was literally traveling down the road and with a laptop in a foreign country trying to run commands off the command line. And then it went all the way down to, I needed my secret phrase to restart. I think I had my password. I didn't think I had the right password. And so if you don't have the right password, then I had to go all the way to the mnemonic phrase, the secret mnemonic phrase.
Yeah.
And I didn't have it with me, because that's a whole nother story of like how we keep these super important
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
phrases of 12 or 24 words that are really our key to those funds. And I had to take the steps needed to retrieve those while traveling overseas. And because Ethereum, the incentive is like the stakers, we have to keep our computers running all the time. That's the deal we make, because
Yep.
we're running the Ethereum blockchain. And if our
Yep.
we get rewarded for uptime and we get penalized for downtime. So
And at that time when you received that message and you were going through this fix,
yeah,
were you being penalized throughout that period of time?
I have to go back and check. I'm pretty sure I was. Yeah, no, I was.
Yeah.
No, I wasn't. You know what? I was not getting penalized, but I was not getting. It was like neutral. I was
Oh,
just
okay.
not getting a reward, and that's the thing. I didn't know, because there's a phrase in staking called slashing, and just the phrase itself sounds like, nobody wants to get slashed. And I didn't know how much I would lose if my node went on offline, because again, like you're saying,
Yeah.
this is the limit of my knowledge. I just knew that I don't want to ever get slashed. And then here I am, the thing may not be running. So I was in a little bit of a panic, more panic than it turns out I really needed to be. But nevertheless, I got to get this back up running, got to get back up running. It turns out if your node is not running for a couple of days, it's not really a big deal. But I didn't know that at the time. And I think I think it was neutral. Now, more recently, I did have my node. They use the phrase, I was receiving negative income. So
That's
that,
what I was doing for the last day and a half. That's exactly what I was doing. And that's not the same as slashing, right? They're two different things.
That is. I
The
think
negative income
is slashing. Yeah. Because it's taking money away from you. It's penalizing you. And that's what it's set up to do. Yeah. But it's a great euphemism, like negative income.
I've been through 2 periods of negative income with
Yeah.
my node. And
Yeah.
they've both been about a day and a half. But part of the deal is, right, you've got to monitor your node. You have to be active. You have to know what's going on with it. And so you've got to check in every so often. And both times it's just been kind of one of my periodic check-ins where that's the wrong color. I like seeing green. I don't like seeing red. And so yeah, no, that has that's been the times where kind of I've had to play a bigger role than I originally imagined. When way back in February of 2021, when I set up my node, as to what I thought I was walking into. And so for yourself, with the kind of like some level of programming background, were you more aware than I was going into it of what your level of maintenance and activity was going to be, or did you kind of like have that same ignorance of what it was going to look like that I had?
Yeah, I went in kind of blind. I had heard of AWS, Amazon Web Services. I was aware of that. I'd never used it. And you kind of get tossed into that environment because that's where we kind of do our updating. And, again, that's like a whole new skill. And I found it quite, it's a little difficult to follow these different menus and steps and clusters and all these different places you have to go. And then you finally get to where you are and you have to copy and paste a different code in, which is basically how you upgrade the software. And then basically save everything by, kind of reversing the process. But again, because you have 32, I'm happy to print a document. And if I print to the wrong printer, or if I print too many copies, or if I print the wrong page, who the heck cares? But when you have everything we do as a solo staker, we have 32 ETH riding on it. And until you're really sure, it's like, what if I do something wrong? Will I lose my, will I
Huh?
lose it? Will I, it's like a lot on the line. So it just makes everything more exciting and sort of a little nerve wracking. I mean, it turns out you're not going to lose your 32 ETH if you tick the wrong box in your Amazon Web Services. But again, when you're new at it and you don't know, and no one is telling you, there's no, I don't know if there's a book on staking. Maybe we should write one. But it's like, yeah, staking for dummies, right? But until, so we're just like on like in new ground here, and not knowing is kind of that you have to err on the side of caution and be
Huh?
and worry,
And so, how much does it worry you? Does it like what sticks in your mind? And like at 2 o'clock in the morning when you're thinking about your node, like what is it
I'll tell you
that's
exactly
kind
what
of
it is.
like going through your mind?
Yeah, because I'm in my 60s, so I'm thinking of like legacy and passing on things, and there's no one in my family that will possibly know what to do with my node. If I got
Mm.
hit by a car or something like that and suddenly died, they and I have tried. I mean, they wouldn't even know to. Yeah, there's many layers. Like, how would
And
they
so,
get
so
into?
what would happen? What would happen when you play
They,
that out? What would happen?
I haven't the foggiest idea. Like, they would not know how to get to Amazon Web Services. They couldn't log into my computer because it's password protected. So they don't know the password to Amazon. I don't know how they would
Uh-huh.
get into that. They don't know, launch nodes. They don't know these things. And so I don't think they have the tools with which to say carry the thing on. And at some point, some payment wouldn't be made because credit cards are involved and things like that. And then maybe the node would stop running, and then it would get slashed into slashed into oblivion. Yeah, so that's what keeps me up. It's like I need to educate a couple family members of how
Uh-huh.
this functions, and it's not just a trivial thing.
Yeah. 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 No,
But
you're
you,
right.
anything keep you seem pretty calm and relaxed with yours. Anything trouble you or worry you, or have you thought about that aspect?
I mean, there are certain things, right? And I'm not the most organized person in the world, and so I, you and I've spoken about like
Mhm.
the detail, not the specific details, but kind of the generalities of like how we set up our own personal security in terms of like the seed phrases, the other pieces that go into the maintenance of the node. And I am just concerned, and for the rest of the time that I'm a solo staker, however long that may be, I will always have this low level concern of I might lose piece of information that I need to get the Ethereum, and
Mhm.
I'm going to be one of those stories where the person was scrabbling through the rubbish, or like or like they dropped it off the side of a boat, or like whatever it might be. That is my concern, that something that I need to access to run the node I'm gonna somehow lose it or destroy it, or something. I'm gonna lose access to it.
Yeah. What gave me a certain boost of peace of mind is when I etched my mnemonic phrases, my secret word phrases into metal. Um, because then it was like it's so hard to misplace that. It can't get, it won't get, a flood won't ruin it. Yeah, you could have your secret phrase beautifully saved, and you have a flood in your house. It could just dissolve all the writing. A fire could destroy it. So the metal seems like it would hold up. And then I have it in two locations because even something can happen in one location. I have it in a second location.
Sure.
I don't know. I mean, that's
No,
a
no. I mean,
whole other conversation, I guess. But
that
it's
seems
part of
very
it. It's part of
secure.
it. Part of it, huh?
I'm starting to think whether I should tattoo my seed phrase somewhere on my body, and that way I'll never lose it.
That's unique. I never thought of that. Yeah. That's a good one. I think that whole C phrase. I actually think banks could play a great role in like traditional banking.
Uh-huh.
But they've like I went to my
No, we talked about this previously. Go on, explain what your theory is.
Well, first of all, I wanted to put my seed phrase in a safe deposit box in my bank, and I went in. They go, "Oh, we don't safe deposit, but nobody uses it anymore. They're all gone. We don't have safe deposit boxes." It's like, what? It's like I thought. When did that happen?
Uh-huh.
No, but the seed phrase is very important. So, and banks are good at securing things, and they had those vaults, and they should just bring back the safe deposit boxes.
Uh-huh.
You know, and then you could put your seed phrase in there, and you wouldn't. That would be pretty safe. You wouldn't. It'd be a little less worrisome. And I'm sure there's banks,
And so,
but yeah,
sure,
or
probably
some
like
other,
if you
or some
believe the
other.
movies, you go to Switzerland and you'll get a safe deposit box there.
There you go. Right, and then when my node goes down, I have to contact my Swiss banker.
Yeah.
Go in, open the key, turn it to the right. Okay, now get to the little paper. No, not that one, the other one.
Okay, so yeah, I mean, we have talked about a whole lot of about ourselves, about how we're feeling about our crypto setup, the Ethereum that we've got, the solo staking that we've got. I feel like we've got a whole lot more to talk about as well. There's so much we haven't touched on. Like I'm looking forward to hearing about like your views on the future of solo staking, of and what you are looking forward, what you're looking for in your own investment in the future in this solo staking world. And I think we've got some guests lined up as well, don't we, Albert?
Oh, yeah. Well, that's the exciting part. So I did a little research. Do you know that there are 500,000 validator nodes running
Okay.
Ethereum?
Okay.
So that is
Yep.
a lot of people running these nodes. And what I would love is to have a chance to speak with as many as we can
Uh-huh.
individually to hear their stories and what they're going through and what they're learning and what they think of the whole thing, just like we've done today. So that's what I'm looking forward to. I really enjoyed
For
talking
sure.
to you, Tommy. It's a lot of fun, and I look forward to the next time.
Yeah. I'm super looking forward to our future podcasts and to hearing more from you. This is an adventure of wonder and interest that we're embarking on.
Absolutely. I'm looking forward to the journey.
So join us for the next episode of The Lone Stakers.
Thank you for tuning in. We really appreciate you sharing our crypto journey. Please send us a message via thelonestakers@gmail.com and make sure to like, subscribe, follow, and mash that bell button so you never miss an episode. The Lone Stakers Podcast. Everywhere you find podcasts.
This has been a Drop Tent Media production.